Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. Now this is the first update episode I have done, and it's on the Route 66 series. Now a year and a half ago I visited the spot, which is the Route 66 State Park outside Eureka, Missouri. And it's funny that that little amount of time, a lot has changed. And there's some good news, and for once I can actually go into the museum. I'll just go ahead and cut to the chase. Here we go. So that building over there, again, is the visitor center. And I don't know if you've seen my episode in the past. I'll put the link to it in the description box, but there's that old key sign. But when I did this episode before, I was not able to go in because of obvious reasons, because Missouri State Parks, their visitor centers were all shut down. But rest assured, I get to go in and check out the museum and gift shop. So here we go. All right, now I'm going to go into the museum. And again, this was something that I was not able to do the last time I was here because of obvious reasons, but here's some old maps. 1932, okay, yep, Route 66. Oh man. And then this here is a timeline dating back to before the 1500s. Indians following game trails develop a route from the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers to the southern plains. It follows the high ground between the Missouri and White rivers. And then the first automobile in Missouri creates a sensation. 95% of Missouri's roads are unpaved. 1910, 1920s, or 1920, the first concrete road in Missouri is poured on what will later become Route 66, a 7.4 mile stretch from Webb City to the Kansas border. And if you see my videos, yes, Route 66, as well as other U.S. highways, was born in 1926. And of course, it talks a lot about the highway. And like 1955, Disneyland opens in Anaheim, California, providing a new destination for Route 66 travelers. 1977, U.S. highway signs in Missouri are taken down, or U.S. Highway 66. 1980, in Missouri, a stretch of highway at Devil's Elbow, the last section of old US 66 still in use as part of I-44, is bypassed. And then if you saw my Williams, Arizona video, it says the last section of the 5 interstate highways replacing Route 66 is completed at Williams, Arizona. But a new chapter came in 1990. The Route 66 Association of Missouri is formed to preserve, promote, and develop old Route 66 in Missouri. And of course, it still happens today. Roman Rich, who I've mentioned a lot of times in my Missouri Route 66 videos, he has a really good YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. And he is actually the president at this time, or the leader, whatever you want to call it. And that is John's Modern Cabins. I did an episode there. Now, in 1999, September 11th of that year, hundreds of curious visitors were excited to see this ribbon being cut for this park. And here's the original ribbon. Well, the blue part is in the back. Down here, the Missouri Highway Department Bridge number 1326 in 1931. And that was placed at the junction of Watson Road and Lindbergh Boulevard, not too far from Kirkwood. And as I mentioned in my video for Route 66 State Park, which I put up a year and a half ago, it says that this here used to be Bridgehead Inn, yes, and built in 1935. Served as elegant dining establishment for mostly to visitors in St. Louis. It had restaurants, motel rooms. And then in 1946, the Bridgehead Inn went up for sale. And then Ed Steinberg, who had a restaurant that had burned down, bought the property and named it Steiny's Inn. And then he sold the property in 1972. And then it became the Bridgehead Inn once again. And then in 1980, they sold the building to James Kell, who opened it as the Galley West. But it did not last long. With the discovery of dioxin in 1982, the building was included in the buyout plans for Times Beach, even though it was not in the contaminated area. It then became headquarters for the cleanup of Times Beach. But in 1999, the grand old building that had been host to so many businesses and memories became the visitor center of Route 66 State Park, where I'm standing. Here's some old pictures, postcard pictures, I imagine. Alright, so if I wanted Italian meatballs and spaghetti, that would have been 75 cents. Shrimp cocktail, 60 cents. Man, those were the days. So cool. And then Times Beach, which was at one time a ghost, I mean, it's a ghost town, but it was once a popular vacation destination for St. Louisans. They would play in the river. And there's one thing you gotta love about pack rats. Like this picture right here, during the Times Beach flood of 1982. This is the sign that was in this picture. Very interesting. And of course, that's what Times Beach looked like. It is now part of Route 66 State Park. All the homes are gone, streets. This also pays tribute to a long-lost icon. I wouldn't say forgotten, but of course, my generation and the generation above that probably would not know anything about it. But it's the Corral Court, which was not too far from Ted Drew's on Watson Road in the St. Louis area. That was a place for adultery, but you can park your car in the garage, and yeah. But a part of it still exists at the Missouri Transportation Museum near Kirkwood. And this at one time was registered to the National Register of Historic Places, but they had not stopped it from being bulldozed. The owner did not think $1 million was going to save it, so he had it bulldozed in 1995. It's an old ashtray. Wow. It's amazing that people have saved these things. Here's an old Corral Court sign. Just imagine what they look like at night. Alright, the Route 66 Lounge. It once existed on the highway in Cuba, Missouri, and it was donated by the lounge's former owner, Fran Eichhoff. So cool. And this place existed in Rolla, the Pennant Hotel. Some old memorabilia, like Meramec Caverns, ashtrays, hotel keys, the Great Meteor Crater, TV guide with Route 66 on cover, the two guys that are on the TV show. And one place I did not do a video on was the 66 Drive-In, which is in Carthage. I did stop and take a picture and a selfie of it, but this is one of the old heaters that was used for moviegoers at night when it was really cool during the fall, and they could, for a fee, they could rent the heater so they can warm up in their cars. Lots of cool pictures, memorabilia again. So cool. Route 66 seedless raisins. Okay, I know nothing about that. But again, here's some old ashtrays and room keys like the Munger Motel, which of course I did a video on. And it talks a lot about the Missouri caves that are found just off Route 66. And then you have Ted Drew's, the Chain of Rocks Bridge. And then the Diamonds Restaurant, which does not exist, but at one time was one of the largest roadside restaurants. And before we leave the place, this is just a little collage of classic signs that are found throughout the highway. Some of them are still there, like Del Rey's, the Chicken Basket, the GI Hot Dog, Ted Drew's. Some of them sadly are long gone. There's Roy's, the Baghdad Cafe. Very nice. Oh yeah, and one of those arrows is gone too. The Sylvan Beach Restaurant. So as a reminder, this is old roadbed of 66. Now the last time I was here, there was a big sign that says save this bridge. So the good news is the bridge will get saved. I was talking to the park ranger in there, or the worker. I guess he's a park ranger, that's what I like to call him. And look at that, there's 2 new markers. So this one right here talks more about the rise and fall of Times Beach, which is now the state park, and it's just on the other side of the Meramec River. I'll show it to you in a minute. But yes, Route 66 State Park is part of a historic Route 66 corridor spanning more than 2,400 miles and crosses 8 states. Times Beach, I know I explained this before, but I'll just do it again. It got its name from its St. Louis Times newspaper and from the beach along the Meramec River where the town was established. In 1926, the same year Route 66 became a federal highway, the newspaper sold land lots in the resort area of Times Beach to the public for $67.50 with the purchase of a 6-month subscription to its paper. Huh. Okay, that part I did not know. The town never quite blossomed into the summer retreat the newspaper advertised that it would become, but instead it turned into a small middle-class town of roughly 2,000 people. And this is where everything went wrong. After hiring a private company to spray oil to keep down the dust on the town's dirt roads in the early 70s, Times Beach experienced an environmental crisis. Before the environmental issues were discovered, many of the residents of Times Beach had fled the town in early December of '82 to escape a massive flood. And then at the end of December, the Environmental Protection Agency revealed extremely high levels of dioxin contamination in Times Beach. The EPA agreed to buy out and level the town in 1983 to clean up the soil and debris left over from demolished buildings. And then this talks about the bridge. So that bridge was almost demolished in 2017 due to serious deterioration. But thanks to a joint effort by local stakeholders, Missouri State Parks accepted ownership off the bridge and to save it from the wrecking ball. Additional funding is still needed to save the structure and create a lasting cultural asset. This was demolished in 2009. I wouldn't say demolished, but it was closed by the Parks Department. But like I said, there's gonna be good news. It's they don't really have a set date yet when it's gonna open. Now cars will not be able to drive on this, with the exception of having car shows like Route 66, nostalgic ones, but it's gonna be a pedestrian, biking, and it's gonna be part of the Missouri Great Rivers Greenway program. So there's still more money to be needed, but it is happening, and it's going to be a $9 million project. They say they have a third of the money. At least that's what the park ranger told me. But I can't wait to see it happen. Now 2026 will be the 100th anniversary of Route 66, as well as all the U.S. highways. So they definitely hope to get it done by that time. So they got about 3.5 more years. But I think it's going to look very fabulous. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this update episode of Route 66 State Park in Missouri. I am Jason, signing off.